You're back with Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping. What's moving and shaking in this ever-changing, crazy market? And who's doing the shaking? Only one guy that knows. That's the Vape Mentor, Norm Bauer.
Welcome back to Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping, sponsored, of course, by Vape News Magazine, the #1 trade publication to keep you involved, keep you informed about what's happening in this very controversial, ever-evolving vape space. And so as we were finishing up the last section, I had kind of alluded to a couple of conferences and conventions, but I wanted to drill that down because by the time you hear this, they might be right around the corner. So make a note, for those of you who are in Chicago or want to go to Chicago, May 7th and 8th is Vapor World Chicago. I actually may be there as well. I had some conversations with the event promoters. I may be involved with some roundtable discussions there. Time will tell. Also in Chicago, we just had Vape Bash, and Matt, who was our publisher of Vape News Magazine, was there, and he will also be going to the International Vaping Festival in Germany on the 26th and the 27th of April. So I mentioned in May, we have one event coming up in Reno, Nevada, Tucson, Arizona, and in Oklahoma we have Rocklahoma, which is a rock concert scheduled for May 23rd and 25th. So, the way I see this vaping space is that maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, there was really not very much. I was privileged to speak at Vapetoberfest last fall in 2013 at the Long Beach Convention Center. At that time, this was the largest gathering of vapors, certainly on the West Coast, probably in the country. We had about 8,500 people over 2 days, and I got to tell you guys, it was massive chaos, but you will be seeing more and more events, more and more conventions, certainly a lot of local vape meets and meetup groups and what have you. And again, I just want to remind you, the show is sponsored by Blow Emporiums and Blow Gourmet E-Juice. Are you looking to open your own shop with a turnkey package, develop your own line of juice? Give me a call at 949-495-6162, or you can go to blowthehabit.com and watch the amazing video that we have, and also Love to Blow, that's BLO.com. Yeah, I know, it sounds a little bit weird, but that is the name of the line, and we're sticking with it, and it brings up a lot of controversial things, which actually is a great segue to the next section, because while I was at the National Association of Tobacco Outlets meeting, as I said, there was a lot of different vendors. There was big tobacco, small tobacco, medium tobacco, cigars, hookahs, you name it. And so for those of you who might be familiar with V2 e-cigarettes, they are the largest seller of e-cigs in the online space. They're not quite the biggest in the consumer space, in the retail space, but they're the largest. And they are owned by VMR Products. So here's what's interesting. Is the e-cig market and the vaping market is changing right before our eyes, You are seeing a market that was very heavily controlled by millennials, especially male millennials between the ages of, say, 20 and their young to mid-30s, with a little bit of influence by women. But now you are seeing the market being changed by the introduction of more and more mature people, as in older, maybe more dull. You have more experienced entrepreneurs, people with business acumen, business experience. And we have more women getting into the space, which brought up the reason that I wanted to interview Adam, because Vapor Couture has a line of e-cigarettes that is specifically geared to the feminine line. And so I'm going to go ahead and plug in this recording, and you can listen up, and then we'll talk about it right after the fact. Paul, go ahead and take her away, buddy.
Welcome back. This is Norm Bauer with Vape News Radio. I am over here at the NATO show. That's the National Association of Tobacco Outlets in Las Vegas. And I have to tell you guys, this is an information overload. What used to be dominated by just regular pure tobacco, about 2/3 of everything I see is related to the vape space. I'm sitting here with Adam with Vapor Couture, who has an interesting idea in regard to the feminine side of vaping. So that's why I wanted to talk with him. So, Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, so tell me about the incentive that you had to develop a product line specifically for the feminine gender.
Well, it's actually a fairly basic logic, which is that e-cigarette space is not 100% men. We think that it's split nearly 50-50 between men and women. And like in many other categories, it's important to make sure that you're catering to a very specific audience. The e-cigarette category is not monolithic. There's many different tastes out there, both from a flavor standpoint and from a style standpoint. So we thought it would be a good opportunity to connect with women through the lens of style. And that's what we've done, basically, is created a whole product line, not just e-cigarettes, by the way, but a whole product line specifically for women. So what does this product line consist of? Well, in addition to the e-cigarettes, which are designed, they're a more narrow form factor. They have a jewel tip on the end that glows when you puff on the e-cigarette, and we also think feminine colors and designs. We have clutches, for instance, and fluted necklaces, and a variety of accessories that are really designed around the e-cigarette or the vaping experience. So a woman can feel like she has a whole ensemble related to electronic cigarettes and not just the cigarette, by itself. That it's coordinated with many other things in her outfit. So before you undertook this, Adam, did you go through any type of a research process, or was it just based on observations that you had in the fact that either there was a lot of women vapors, or you maybe thought that the industry was a little bit too masculine for their taste? All the dimensions that you just described, we went through. Our parent company is VMR. V2-cigs is our flagship brand, and we have over 1 million customers online, so we're able to evaluate a lot of the sales activity from those consumers, and we've offered different colors over time. For instance, pink, which is predominantly a feminine color, and have created an opportunity for us to see where there's been interest there, and so that's been one dimension. Another dimension is simply looking at historically how there have been products, whether it's been in the traditional cigarette space or in other categories, products that have been designed for women, and I think that history has shown that the more specific and narrower you can get with a particular offering, particularly if you can own a category or a segment of a category, the higher their probability for success. So that was kind of the third dimension, is this leap where we've observed that happen in several categories, and have created that product for women. So that's how that all came to fruition. All right, so V2 is your parent company? V2 is our flagship brand. VMR is the parent company. Okay, so tell me about the V2 line, because obviously you guys are always very, very high on the flavor scale as far as you get very good ratings about V2. So let's segue into that and talk about how the V2 line maybe came about and where it stands right now, competing against a very, very challenged marketplace. Well, I think probably it's easier to talk about where it is or where it's going maybe than where it's been. There are really three dimensions that we salute every time that we're considering a new product or a new offering for V2. There's the taste dimension, there's the technology dimension, and then there's the trust dimension. And taste, you've already referenced, relates to our flavor profile and how closely we replicate whatever it says on the package, basically. From a technology standpoint, we're constantly innovating new products that enhance the consumer experience. What you'll see online, for instance, is our new EX product line, which has enhanced battery life, better longer performance in our cartridges or our consumables, and we're always looking at new opportunities to enhance the consumer experience, and that really is our philosophy, is a user-centric approach. And the third aspect is trust, and what we've become known for is being very transparent with our customers or our consumers related to ingredients, batch testing, and doing everything we can to eliminate any sort of misunderstanding or misinformation about what's included in an e-cigarette. We've found that over time, that's created a lot of loyalty with our brand, because consumers can trust the V2 brand and everything that stands behind it. Do you have any ideas about where you stand as far as V2 with market share compared to some of your competitors? Is that something that you might be able to share? What I can tell you is that online we're the number one brand, and we're the number one brand by a large margin. Offline, the data is not nearly as clear. What I can tell you is that in stores where we have been in for more than 3 months, we're usually the number 1 or number 2 product in those stores. So looking at the general market of the addressable market, we still have a ways to go. But where we've gotten distribution, we perform very well versus the competition.
That's awesome. So you're basically the number 1 e-cig in the online space?
Yes.
That's awesome. So let me ask you a question. Right now there's a lot of curiosity, a lot of concern over what the FDA is going to come up with. And one of the questions that always comes up is, how does that impact online sales? And I know a lot of our listeners right now either are in the online world with their own websites, or maybe they're contemplating doing that. What are your thoughts on that, either in regards to what the FDA may or may not do, or how that might impact the online space, not just counting you, but everyone?
Yeah, I don't really have much to say about that. Your guess and all your listeners' guesses
are as good as anyone's.
They're as good as anybody's. And I think that our broad perspective is, we welcome sensible regulation. It makes sense. I don't think that anyone would. I think we'd be silly to not embrace that approach. But beyond that, I cannot predict how the FDA is going to treat any specific channel. We're interested to know.
Yes.
I have no more insight than you do or your listeners do.
And I agree with you. There's a lot of people who I've spoken to and might be listening right now who are absolutely opposed to regulations, but I think we have to be pretty realistic, pretty pragmatic about this. And so my position is, after talking with mayors and council people and administrators and a lot of people in government and legislation, is that absolutely we need regulation, but we don't want restrictions. We absolutely should have something in place that basically says, yes, you can do something, but as long as you stay within our confines. It's no different than driving down the road, and if it says 35 miles an hour, you don't go 45 miles an hour.
That's right.
You can go less, but in this particular vaping industry, we just want them to be able to say, this is what you can do. And obviously one of the concerns that a lot of people who are listening right now, they have, is in regards to local government. Local government seems to be more impactful than actually the states or the federal level until the FDA comes out with their restrictions and their guidelines.
Yeah, we've observed the same thing you've observed, and particularly some of the larger cities in the U.S. who've embraced very restrictive regulation around electronic cigarettes. Obviously, we're not thrilled with those developments, but we also want to salute whatever the decisions were in those particular local governments and play along. I would just go back to the sensible regulation, and I think that needs to be informed by healthy debate and good science. And then if all those things come to pass, I think that the right level of regulation will present itself. I think it'll be unfortunate if people are just kind of reactive about the industry without doing their due diligence, and that's really the position that we're advocating. And in many ways that connects to the transparency I'd mentioned earlier, is that we're very open about what it is that we're doing and the ingredients in our products, and are hopeful that the dialogue would go both ways with whatever regulatory body is out there who's interested in governing how e-cigarettes are distributed or consumed.
Awesome. So I want to come back again to the female direction that you're focusing on with your Vapor Couture. So how many different products do you have with the feminine arena in it there?
Well, the total number of SKUs is probably between 30 and 50 total SKUs.
Wow.
Because of the variety of battery types, and we do everything with matching cartridges. So there's several different iterations of what you might see just within either the disposable or the rechargeable e-cigarette space. And then the necklaces and the kits, the chargers, the personal charging cases, etc. They're all coordinated. So it's not a really expansive product line, but it's a good core offering that again allows a consumer to embrace coordination, basically the same way you would want to match one would want to match their shoes and their purse. It's the same sort of thing.
Well, here at this exhibit here, obviously there's a lot of females here, and they're very color coordinated.
Yep.
And I noticed that a lot of women would much rather vape or much rather use an e-cig than smoke a regular cigarette. And
Yep.
from a man's standpoint, it's a lot more attractive.
Yep.
There's a lot to be said for men being attracted to a woman with an electronic cigarette as opposed to having a regular cigarette. So should someone want more information on your company, can you share your website or anything else you'd like to share?
Absolutely. Thanks for asking. There's a couple of places you could go. V2 E-cigs.com is our primary e-commerce website, and then we also have VaporCouture.com, which just offers the women's products we just discussed.
Awesome. Adam, thank you so much. This is Norm Bauer with Vape News Magazine, and Adam from Vapor Couture.
Well, there you have it, guys. And I mean guys in the masculine sense. The women are definitely infringing and being all over this vaping space. And so we're going to have a little contest here. Adam was very kind enough to offer a raffle gift. It's a $65 gift. It's called the Le Essential Kit. And I have to tell you, this is one smoking little product because it's a very feminine, I hate to call it a feminine product because obviously that takes us in the wrong direction. But this is really a very cool, very sexy product. And in future shows, we're going to be talking about the impact of sex in the vape space and the e-cigarette market. So if you send me an email to norm@VapeMentors.com, VapeMentors, norm@VapeMentors.com, with the subject line V2cigs. Just go ahead and send me your information with your contact information, your name and your cell phone number and your email address, and we're going to go ahead and have a raffle for a future show to give away that very generous gift that was offered by V2. Again, this is the Vape News Radio Show. My name is Norm Bauer, the voice of vaping, and we're going to be back in just a few moments. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping, with the one and only Vape Mentor, Norm Bauer.